as Muslims, how do we navigate through this situation and the various other situations, right?
Yes, yes.
And so therefore we need to understand very core concepts, because it's not as if that racism is something so new, right? Because this is something I've commonly asked certain academics and certain woke activists.
Yeah.
What predates white supremacy?
No, I'm not worried at all. I rely on God, Allah.
I mean, Dr. Saeed, let me just get a few kind of, if I may, if I can just get a few disclaimers out of the way, because it's important. Because this topic that we're going to delve into today is so sensitive. What I don't want our brothers and sisters who are listening now, or watching now, we're going to do it later, is to think that in any shape or form that we are belittling or dismissing or appropriating anything. It needs to be well known. It needs to be well known that the oppression which African Americans have experienced under the US regime for over 400 years is something that is so horrific.
Yes.
That I would go as far as to say, historically speaking, that there's no other groups of people that have experienced that level of systemic, global, coordinated enslavement and then labor exploitation upon
and sustained racism.
Still ongoing, to the extent where the US built an entire empire of the blood, sweat, tears, and lives of Black African slaves, many of whom were Muslim. Many of whom were Muslim slaves, number one. Number two, brothers and sisters from whatever background you're from, even if there's non-Muslims that are going to join and listen to this podcast, no one has the right, because you would be denying reality, to say that African Americans, specifically in the US and beyond, face a level of racial prejudice and oppression which is very visible, which is institutional, and which is deep-rooted in not decades, but centuries of very racist policies of European colonialism, whether it be the science of eugenics. All of these things are legit. I don't think me or Dr. Saeed are in any shape or form trying to like belittle, because you would be denying reality, and we could even fall into sin to be denying injustice.
Yes.
I guess the crux of today's discussion has to be this. As Muslims, how do we navigate through this situation and the various other situations, right?
Yes, yes.
And so therefore we need to understand very core concepts, because it's not as if that racism is something so new, right? Because this is something I've commonly asked certain academics and certain woke activists.
Yeah.
What predates white supremacy? They're stuck. I'm like, what predates white supremacy? What predates European colonialism? Muslim academics, what predates European colonialism? They're stuck, because that's kind of where the chronology of kind of postmodernist kind of structural thinking and all these kind of different ideologies and tools, sociological tools are born. But we know that Shaitan, Iblis, he refused to make sujood to Adam alayhi salam, and it's very widely known that it's kibr. It was kibr. Yes, it was kibr. But what was that kibr grounded on? It was grounded on a biological difference that he had with Adam alayhi salam. And he thought he was made out of smokeless fire, and Adam alayhi salam was made from turab. So he felt superior to Adam alayhi salam. This guy was the first racist. He was the first racist. And then we know from the many hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where we spoke about asabiyya. Now asabiyya has many modern manifestations, from racism to tribalism to nationalism, right?
Yes.
Racism is one strand and a very apparent manifestation of asabiyya. Asabiyya is something the Prophet called rotten. In another hadith where the authenticity is disputed amongst the ulama, he described it to something so foul that I'm not even going to utter these words. You heard this hadith? Yeah?
Yes.
So Prophet ﷺ has told us this. He's made it very clear in his final sermon. And again, it's got to such a point where some Muslims are being told not to talk about these things. Don't talk about the Prophet ﷺ's last sermon. Don't talk about Bilal radiallahu anhu. Don't talk about that an Arab is not better than a non-Arab and a white is better. Don't talk about these things. How can a Muslim not talk about these things? What do you want us to talk from? What framework do you want us to talk from?
Yeah.
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 We know, brothers and sisters, we know that Prophet ﷺ has spoken about asabiyya very explicitly. He spoke about the asabiyya that existed internally amongst Quraysh. He spoke about the asabiyya that existed amongst some Sahaba towards others due to their lineage, due to their race. He's addressed this. We also know, people, it's so trendy now, right? Like to say they want to talk about structural racism and structure. Okay, Allah tells us about al-mala. In the Quran, Allah tells us about the rich and powerful elite who were commonly those who rejected the message of the prophets. Yeah? Al-mala were the ones who rejected Nuh alayhi salam, who rejected Musa alayhi salam. Fir'aun was the system. He was a system of oppression. And what did Fir'aun do? What did the Mufassirin say about Fir'aun? He divided society into groups and kept them divided and disunited. Easier to control. We don't need postmodernist structural theory to be telling us that. Allah has told us that. Allah has told us how it was the Jewish clergy, right, and the Jewish elite at of Bani Israel at the time of Isa alayhi salam who rejected him, who conspired with the Romans. Who were the Romans? They were the structures of power, right? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the Quraysh, they were the system of power of Arabia, right?
Yeah.
We know this, and we also know it's a very Aqidah 101 discussion here.
Yeah.
Anything that emanates from disbelief is going to be oppressive. So we don't need modern notions of.
Do I feel that the New York police are providing enough protection, or do I have to have protection of my own? I look for protection from Allah.